explosives and stuff like that, but cooldowns, they're super long. Maybe if they like make the cooldowns faster, this route would be a lot more viable. But as of right now, nobody even likes to trade with gravity either. Now, the Mammoth route. Everybody has been waiting for me to rank this one, I bet. You guys already know this thing's going into gods.
Hey, what is that?
It's insanely.
Unmute other people. Mute those people, everybody up. Chandra, did you call Nandita madam?
Yes, sir. Nandita ma'am is about to join, sir. She said she'll be joining.
Okay. Great. Did you get a chance to speak to Ms. Arundhati Garu and Praveen Potuvati Garu? They're here?
Yes, sir. No, sir. They'll be joining.
Why don't you just call them up?
Sure.
Because I don't have their number. Just put the...
No, I have it, sir. I will call.
Yeah, kindly. I request all the heads of the departments to kindly leave a message to your students, everybody. So, Chichandra, this means most of them are joining through YouTube link. They're not here.
Yes, sir. People are joining.
No, YouTube, when they join YouTube, you can't see them here, right?
No, sir. We cannot see them here.
So, but why did you give YouTube to them? You should have given here, right? After only recording, you give to YouTube next time onwards.
Okay, sir. Sure.
Yeah, because unnecessarily what will happen is you don't know how many people are coming here.
Sure.
Yeah, because that is never do that actually. After recording is done, only after you get the entire project done, when our team is done here, then you release the next day.
Okay, sir. Sure.
Because I do not know, the heads of the departments also will get confused. People will say that I've been there, watching there, and we don't have a track record there actually.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, kindly. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
If Arundhati madam vachara?
Yes, I'm
Yes,
here.
sir. Good evening, ma'am.
Hello madam, how are
Hi,
you?
good evening. I'm good, sir. How are all of you?
All good, all good.
Ma'am, we'll be starting in a moment, ma'am. Participants are joining.
Yeah, sure.
So, you have the PPT presentation?
I have it with me. I'll have to go and
Okay,
present
great.
it.
You just become, I think, Chandra, you have to give the uh, rights, right, for her to present it?
I have
Yes.
a share screen option, I think, at this
Yeah.
point of time. I can
Yes,
see
ma'am.
it.
Yeah, I've given
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
So we will wait for Nanita madam to formally launch it.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
ఎవరో ఫోన్ చేస్తున్నారు నీకు నాకా ఇదిగో
Good evening, Nandita ma'am.
Good evening. Good evening. We are starting the session.
Yeah, Nanita ma'am, how are you? Good evening.
I'm good, good. Banu, good, very good.
Hi,
Good,
Nandita.
fantastic.
How are
Arundhati,
you?
hi, Arundhati is very much there.
Yes,
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 yes.
yes. How about the other gentleman? Is here?
So he will join. He will join after 40-45 minutes. After she finishes, he'll do the case study kind of.
Great, fantastic. Good, go ahead. I think we are good to go. We'll wait another for, I think,
There
5
are only
minutes.
20 participants right now, including.
Yeah, I think what happened, Nandita, most of them have gone to watching YouTube link diye the hum log. So people are actually
Acha.
watching from YouTube actually.
Acha, they are watching from YouTube.
So what we should not have, I told Sri Chandra, the next time onwards, we will not give YouTube link. Only after the session is over, we can give the YouTube link open to other people.
Yeah, we need to edit sometimes. Yeah.
And Sri Chandra, this is recording, right?
Yes, sir. It will record as soon as we start speaking.
Okay, great.
You
Fantastic.
can
So,
introduce Arundhati and we can start. Arundhati,
yeah,
will
Nandita,
you
please
have
go
your
ahead.
camera on?
Just, yeah.
Yeah, I'll get it up.
Yeah.
Just give me a minute.
And Sri Chandra, you can put Arundhati on spotlight.
Yeah, sure, ma'am. I'll do that.
Good to finally see you all.
I know, good to see you.
We're all panels and names and numbers
know.
otherwise.
Yeah. That's nice. You're coming bright and on the spotlight now. Yeah. So yeah, I
Go ahead,
think
Nandita.
if you're sure that they have joined on YouTube, we can start up.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Ma'am, I'd request Nandita ma'am to do the moderation for this and introduce the speaker as well.
Okay, I've not kept her profile, but anyway, Arundhati is an old friend of mine, as well as colleague as well. So she was the founder of AMIL Consultancy. and Services Private Limited, and she's been doing a phenomenal work in her institution. And before that, I think she also worked with other companies. So Arundhati has also been training in Triple IT. She's one of the top rated mentors in the startup ecosystem. And whenever she's also been a mentor in TES. So can I have everybody put themselves on mute, please?
I think Chandra, can you put it on the mute, other people? Mute. Nandita, unmute yourself.
Yeah.
Good, yeah.
Now I have her actual profile with me, so let me read it. She comes with about 30 years of experience across domains like analytics, projects, documentation, and compliance. And she has worked across different spaces like finance, manufacturing, services, and across a range of organizations, MNCs, traditional businesses, new age tech, government, non-government, heavy engineering, etc. Effective in managing with focus on profitability by ensuring optimal utilization of resources. She's very proficient in developing and streamlining systems to enhance operational effectiveness and meet operational goals within the cost, time, and quality parameters as well. Very keen driver of processes, SOPs, compliance, and streamlining workflows, creating teamwork environment to enhance productivity. And like I said, she's the founder of Amal Consultancy Private Limited and a mentor at Triple IT and also at TES. So welcome you, Arundhati. Really great to have you on this session. We have students from around 15 colleges or so, as well as faculties are also there. So all yours now, Arundhati.
Thank you so much, Nandita, and thank you, Dr. Bhanu Reddy. I'm happy to be here. Really glad for this opportunity. It's been a long while since we've done this massive size online post, COVID. So great, but welcome all of you, and I'm happy to be here. And I really think it'll be nice if all of us talk, because I don't think there's any conversations that happen now which can be monologues in today's time and age, particularly given that the information that all of us have is out there in public domain. So I strongly welcome all of you to participate and, give your opinions and perspectives on the things that are being discussed. I will be, putting you through a couple of things over the next, I think 30-40 minutes. So I will use slide because we're not physically here, but that's not so much about going through the slide as a monologue, but it's more for all of us to be able to deliberate and discuss those things as we, go through the process. So I'm happy for all of you to participate, and I strongly encourage you to do so. All right, so let's get started. Just give me like a fraction of a minute, and I'll pull up the first content of discussion, and we can take it forward. All good?
Yeah, thank you so much, Arundhati Garu. What I'll do is, after your session is over, probably we'll ask questions to come back. Okay, once you're done.
Yeah, but like I said, I'm like participants, please feel free to discuss things as we discussing it, because I don't, like I said, we are in the age of Google and ChatGPT and also really let's just talk about things, right?
Great.
All right.
Great. Then go ahead. Yeah, thank you.
So I will do a slide share, screen share. Can all of you see?
Yes, ma'am, we can see.
Okay, perfect. So through the next 30-40 minutes, I will take you through three major things that are slated for, the discussion this evening. One is, of course, market gap, opportunity identification and all. The another thing will be things of idea validation. How do you look at things and how do you validate it and say it's marketable? Another thing is the financial viability of certain things. So what I'm going to put you through is not the theory so much of it as to the way I have seen things or done things over these years. And I'm happy to hear what you have to say about things. All right. So let's just get started. So we are good with everything. First, I'm definitely looking at, can all of you read C, or is there any issue?
Yes, ma'am, we can. Please proceed.
Okay. So we're looking at something like the market gap, okay? Because that's where we start. So let me just enlarge it so it becomes, hang on. Yeah. All right. So let's begin with something called the market gap, which is what we say here. Market gap is what is unmet, underserved need or demand within a particular market, discrepancy between products or services that are currently available and what the customers or the market actually desires. Okay, and it could be a product or service which is absent. It could be a quality of feature which is a gap. It could be a price gap, or it could be an accessibility gap. And the whole thing about market gap is that it gives you an opportunity for innovation, to address unmet needs. It gives you a marketing edge. It gives you a competitive edge, and it allows you to potentially capture new markets. Yeah, let's go on further. So I will delve a little longer on why are we looking at a market gap, or why is it that it's important, and why should we pay attention to a market gap? Market gap, oh, I just need to mute this out. Market gap allows you to have, have newer and innovate opportunities because the current offerings are insufficient. It allows for innovation of products or services that better address consumer needs. It gives you the ability to, take advantage of the market gap and give you a competitive edge. If you're the first to fill a market gap, you would be a business that will establish and have a niche, and you have loyal customers who, are very strongly committed and coupled with you before you have, competition to deal with or have to cope with. Then your business growth potential also increases because you're looking at unmet needs. A company that can attract, you can get newer market shares and you can expand. So it's and let's all remember the fact that markets are very, very dynamic. And I think in today's time and age, we're all very aware of it. One, secondly, it impacts us. It's no longer like, hey, you know what, I'm not actively participating, or I'm not actively out there in the market, or I'm not an entrepreneur, I'm not a business, therefore. But I think that those silos have dissolved. So now all of us are impacted by what happens or does not happen out there in the market. Therefore, it is a good idea for you, all the more so if you're an entrepreneur or a business out there in the market, to look at meeting those unmet needs and expanding your market share. Customer satisfaction and loyalty is something that we've all known and we all have grown up with through our years. I think even all of you as audiences and all of us who are on the opposite side of the table have seen customer satisfaction and loyalty, which is one of the reasons why India, when it moved from being a socialist economy to being a capitalist economy, and we transitioned when we had the economic reforms and all that in the early 90s, we moved from customer satisfaction and loyalty being a very passive thing to being a very progressive and active driver for how companies and businesses address things. All right, there was a time when the Indian market did not have the plethora of choices that we have now. Therefore, customer satisfaction and loyalty was between 1, 2, 3. So market shares and things like that was not, a thing to really fight very hard for. But in today's time and age, because of the competition which is there and because of the access to markets which are beyond the immediate local markets, which could be at a national level or beyond the borders or across any country at this point of time, and the ability to be able to transit anything thanks to the supply chain and the robust, transaction processes that are available, payments which are online. Customer satisfaction and loyalty is a very, very critical driver of whether businesses and entrepreneurs work, function, and actually get successful or don't. Profitability, of course, there is no point of being an entrepreneur or being a business if profitability is not what you're focusing on. And if profitability, definitely flows in once you have products or services that customers are willing to pay. So you could have extremely, functional products. You could have extremely good services. But if the customers are not willing to put the money for what you're offering, then your profitability is the first hit. And if there's no profitability really as an enterprise, as a commercial, outfit out there, it doesn't make too much of sense. Then we bring you back to the fact that we are living in a dynamic time. We are living in a dynamic age, and the markets are very, very dynamic, very, very volatile. And of course, we are in the VUCA world now, or a little more than that. Therefore, adaptation to changing demands and the fact that markets continuously evolve makes it important for all businesses, all entrepreneurs to stay agile and adapt and remain. It allows them to remain relevant. So if you look at something like all the brands that we've known, something like maybe a Wipro, something like, even Reliance, good old Reliance that we see all around us. If you see to the way they started, the Reliance started out being something that just made a textile at one point of time. Today, it's a conglomerate. Or even Wipro. Wipro is spread across all sorts of sectors, from all the way from, FMCG to maybe edibles. So therefore, if you have that kind of thing, every business needs to stay agile and adapt and remain relevant. And that's how they remain relevant. So we've seen the big giants go down. We've seen the big giants swim and float very, very well. So it's a question of how agile and how adaptive they are. Opportunities for diversification. So market gaps are, in today's time and age, they are your cues for what tomorrow is going to be like. They are your cues for where you should leverage. Sorry?
Anna,
And they're cues for diversification. So it allows, market gaps allows you opportunity for diversification or expansion. And you can increase your line of products, you can increase your line of services. So if you remember something like, all the OTT services we had, at one point of time, they had only so much that they offered, or even good old YouTube that all of us are right now on. At one point of time, YouTube was something you would just hit for some kind of content. But today we've reached a stage where YouTube gives you choices. YouTube says, do you want to watch something specific? Do you want to watch something with ads? Do you want to watch something without ads? Do you want to watch something which is curated for around a specific content? I mean, over time, it of course has evolved and developed and adapted, and it gives you multiple offerings depending on what you use or want to use of YouTube. So YouTube could be used for academics, YouTube could be used for entertainment, it could be used just to get a sense of what's happening in the world. Likewise, your Twitters and your LinkedIns and everything. I mean, we've all seen them come. We've all seen the kind of limited offering they had at one point of time. I don't know how many of you are young. I am sure if you're in colleges and all, you're a whole lot young. So for you, all of this is a taken for granted thing. But there was time when they had only a single line offering or a single line product. But of course, now as time has gone by, they've added so much more, and they're more, evolved around, they're more centric around the customer. So every individual who's using any of these platforms, it adapts to meet your requirements. So YouTube, what it shows to every person, or any of these platforms, what it shows to each person is independent of what it shows to the next person. So that is how they have leveraged the fact that, hey, you know what, given tech, given artificial intelligence, given all of it that can be data that can be trapped and tracked, they're able to offer things like that. Investment and partnership potential. Now, this is something that we have over time seen it. It happens in markets, is very real. So in terms of, hey, am I really going to invest in building so many factories myself? Or am I going to invest in having so many retail outlets myself? Or should I partner? So you and I see a lot of partnerships which are out there in virtual reality. When you go online shopping, there's a lot of partnership potential that you see. And all of us know that any new manufacturing product which comes, they're happy to put it out at Amazon. So Amazon, at one point of time, you could buy little ones, you could buy them over a period of time. You could buy them only if you made a payment, etc., etc. Today, you can buy just about anything you can think of on Amazon or Flipkart. Therefore, it allows partnership potential. It allows everybody to say, hey, all of us don't have to set up an e-commerce platform. Makes it cheaper and easier. Everyone with me? Anything you'd like to share? Yes, no, maybe? Nandita, you guys there or have I lost everyone?
Yes, ma'am, we are here.
Okay.
Participants can unmute themselves if they have any questions.
Yeah, anybody, anything you'd like to share? I'm happy to hear. All right. So, okay. I'm going to move on to, so we done with why market gap is important and why is it important for you as an entrepreneur business to keep an eye on the market gap and keep proactively seeking it and looking for it. Yeah. So next. Okay, these are the instances of market gap. Okay, so I assume all of you are young enough to kind of understand that these are things you let's just say anybody who's in the 20s or 30s kind of takes it for granted that all of these things have been there for the last decade or two. But trust me when I say that if you look, went back a couple of decades more, maybe 3 or 4 decades more, or 5 decades more, a lot of this are changes which have come on account of market gaps which have been created. Okay. So people have leveraged and identified it. For instance, even today you have the market gap, and even today, trust me when I say this, but there are a lot of entrepreneurs and there are a lot of businesses which are looking to address these market gaps because these market gaps are continue to be there and still haven't been addressed. So it's not a closed market gap as yet. It's a continuous opening, evolving, being studied market gap. Something like transportation services, last mile connectivity. I think all of us do know that when we get off a metro, the next thing we're looking for is if your home is down the road, great for you. Or if your workplace is down the road, great for you. But if it is not, then getting off the metro service, which is great, and trying to find your way back home or the way to work is a last mile connectivity issue. So lots of times we work with online cabs, we work with the two-wheeler transportation that they've given. All of that thing happens, but it still continues to be not a resolved issue. And every time the transportation services, whether any of the public transportation services increases or becomes more effective or becomes more extensive, the last mile connectivity issue just increases along with it. Therefore, for people who are looking at it, and there are quite a few companies and businesses which are into that space, those who are there, I think, along with the increasing network of public transportation, the last mile connectivity is a continuously expanding portfolio, is a continuously expanding market. So anybody who's there now is going to be there for a really long haul. So it's going to be a slow burn for them, because I don't think at this point of time there's anybody who's completely conquered the market, nor will there be anybody who will conquer it in the near future. That's a continuously expanding market. Healthcare. Healthcare is another thing. Healthcare at one point of time used to be anybody who's ailing and not well would have to seek and go to the doctor or the hospital. Today, healthcare comes to people when they're ailing and not well, particularly when it comes to geriatric care or comes to people with chronic diseases. Healthcare remote, and today we have wearable devices which allow you to monitor healthcare. Healthcare is a lot more accessible and affordable, because today you have people who can come home and take all the tests that are required at a cost which most people can afford. Although it is yet to become a lot more accessible and affordable, it is yet to become a lot more accessible and affordable for people beyond the urban areas. And it is not to say that they don't have it who are beyond the urban areas, but what is available and at what rate and what is the turnaround time is probably not super effective. But I think we're getting there, because again, I have had lots of conversations with people in this space as well. And there are people today who say one person has the ability to cover the last person living within the geographical territory of the country and to be able to monitor their health. So it's long past the stage where people had to suffer with their health issues. Now you have predictive healthcare, which actually takes the person all the way to the last person in the map of India and says, hey, you know what, you're really, really far away, but healthcare at your doorstep. So this is your medication, this is your ailment, this is your test, and this is when you're due for the next round. This is when we'll come back and test. Healthcare has reached that point, but healthcare probably has not, at this particular point of time, as we are looking at it, has not probably covered it entirely. It's just a question of time and space when I think healthcare will reach the doorstep of every person and will be accessible and affordable. There's a lot of work happening there. Again, technology, cybersecurity, particularly for MSMEs, and digital transformations, and boutique solutions, tech solutions for people who really do not have that need or the money or the spend or the capacity to be able to want everything, and which is quite obvious. Matlab, there is not going to be any entrepreneur or a business which is going to want everything which is being offered at the tech scope, but there's going to have to, adapt and transform and all that. And those are market gaps which are being filled. But again, that's not a continuous, unlike if you see transportation services and healthcare, which is a continuous market gap and more or less standardized in terms of saying, hey, what can be offered to person X could also be offered to person Y. It's just that there'll be a variation on their health status. But in terms of the facility or the healthcare which is being offered, it could pretty much be a spread of the same. But when it comes to technology, it's going to be a lot more spotty. It's going to be a lot more intermittent. It's not going to be very continuous, but it's happening. And the market gap is being addressed. Food industry, good old Swiggy and Zomato, which of us have not used it? I think just about everybody. But even at this point of time, Swiggy and Zomato still have the ability to say that food industry needs healthy, quick, and affordable meal options. Swiggy and Zomato still continue to be not an everyday meal option or a regular family meal option. They could be a weekend thing, they could be a contingency thing, they could be a celebration thing, they could be a immediate requirement thing, but they're not a regular, healthy, quick, and affordable meal option. So that market gap in India is, I think it's got a long haul. There's a long tail to it. I think it will take a huge, tremendously long time and effort to kind of fill it and get to the next level where that is going to be available, accessible, which is going to be acceptable to all. At this point of time, I think that is a gap which is very evident. Again, like technology, it's going to be very individualistic and it's going to be a hard one to meet everybody's individual requirements. But I think we'll get there eventually. Education, I think we're more or less already there. Education has seen the up and down of it. Pre-COVID, COVID, post-COVID. So you've had good old Byju's, you've had EduLearn, you have Coursera, you've had all of these come, which are very which design the courses for you, which in fact now I think it's evolving to the point which says, what kind of a learner are you? It's not which is being offered as course content. Now it's being offered as to how do you learn? Are you somebody who learns with the theory of it? Are you somebody who learns by seeing? Are you somebody who learns by doing? Therefore, the personalized learning platforms are getting to that level where they're going to be able to meet that requirement that you have as a person who's looking to learn. So this is again a market gap, which is let's just say the gap is being addressed. The gap has got a lot of players in it. And the gap has different, offerings by different players for different peoples at different price points. So in a sense, it is somewhere between where healthcare is and somewhere between food and technology is, because every individual will have a different requirement. So, and it'll have to be curated for each individual. So it's going to be a hard process, but I think it's one of the forerunners of it. So I think that's good. Environmental sustainability, gap in sustainable and cost-effective, solutions across spaces. Now, this is going to be a hard sell, because the minute you talk of something like environmental sustainability in businesses and in commerce and in entrepreneurship, it's one thing to want it, to appreciate it, and to understand it. It's an entirely different ball game to put the spend or the money for it. Therefore, that's really going to be a hard crack, not just for us, but for anywhere in the world. Plus, it's not going to happen until it's forced. So if anybody is there in the space of environmental sustainability at this point of time, they're probably really, really ahead of their times. One, they probably have a really, really long haul. Second, and it's probably going to be a very slow burn. Therefore, people who are in that space, I don't think can be looking at the money they make vis-a-vis the staying power that they have. So what they should ideally be focusing at this point of time will be just staying out there, because the market gap is continuously evolving and super dynamic, and it's going to be a global thing. So it's a huge thing that's going to expand as the day goes by. Finance is another thing which is let's just say very, very prevalent, and it touches every individual on the face of this earth. So finance, there is a gap in terms of accessible, engaging financial literacy tools for most everybody. But the trouble with finance is, those who know how to get it or who good at getting it, get it. And those who don't know somehow don't seem to be able to climb the mountain despite all the tools and despite all the engagement outreaches which are made. So finance, I think, is going to be a question of time. Finance is going to be a question of, a generation being able to deal with the online financial things and being able to work with it or trust it. So it's going to be a lot of those things which are going to play, not in terms of how much is the market gap or can it be filled or not. It can superbly be filled by like tomorrow morning, but the thing is, adoption is going to be the resistance there. Comes to real estate, again, we're going to have, the huge gap in terms of what is required and what is offered, because money is going to be a huge player there to say everybody can't seem to afford what they want, and what's out there just doesn't seem to, fit the requirement. Entertainment, I think more or less just about everybody who has been there continues to be there. And I think that market gap is more or less determined by the players in the industry. It's not so much about the consumer or the customer segment which is determining that market gap. That market gap is being determined by the people who are giving the services or the offering. So that's not though it should be consumer centric. I think it's more driven by the people who are the service providers there. All good, everyone with me? All
Yes,
right.
yes.
Yeah,
I'm-
I think yes. If anybody has any queries in between, just to make it bit interactive for her. you can-
Exactly.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
like,
I can
anybody,
understand.
anything?
And you also want to chat, you can do that. Chit chatting is allowed here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
please.
Chandra, we can read out some questions if somebody is chatting.
There are some chats, but I can't seem to access it. at all.
He'll read out to you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Don't worry about that.
Sir, as of now, chat box is like there's no
There's no
chat. Yeah,
question.
seen
Okay.
none on the floors.
So shall I go ahead?
Yeah, please. Madam, I think I suggest some examples. You can share them.
Yeah, I'm
Uh,
coming to the case studies and stuff.
Yes.
And then I'm going to kind of give a peek into, the way it's being done on
Absolutely.
different desks. So yeah, this is the, I was hoping they'll have something so we can move forward.
Absolutely. No, go ahead. Yeah, sorry for bothering you. Go ahead.
No, not at all. Chalo.
Ma'am,
Bolo.
ma'am, this is Srichandra only. Ma'am, since you have spoke about last mile connectivity
Yeah.
and the services we actually trying to cater upon in the market.
Right.
So could you it's just a point of information from my side.
Yeah, please.
Just I was curious that if you could relate this to Amazon, like e-commerce website, where
Mhm.
they are trying to ensure the last mile delivery through engaging or employment or anything, but we actually don't find all the products and they don't heavily market it also. They don't have a
Yeah,
marketing
I
strategy.
think there are a couple of things when you're talking of that kind of a thing. The first thing that occurs to me is Amazon is yet to kind of start making money out of the entire exercise. Okay. So having said that, when they're yet to make money, even for them to offer the last mile connectivity seems to be an additional expense, one. Secondly, I think to that extent, they are looking at a drone delivery and things like that, although they have a lot of those, political and military issues in terms of having drone delivery. But last mile connectivity is something that they are kind of experimenting. They've been talking about drone delivery for the last decade or so. So I'm really, really looking forward to it. But I think there will be some practical issues why it will not happen via just the drone. Second. Third thing, I think Amazon is also tying up with Indian Postal Service to do the last mile delivery. Because if there's anybody who can do it the most effectively, it's the Indian Postal Service. Although over the last decade or so, it's almost defunct or on its way out. But I think Amazon is trying to leverage on the ability of Indian Post to do the last mile delivery and be able to service it that way. That's my take on it. Anyone, anything there?
Okay, ma'am.
Anyone? Have I answered your question at all?
Yes,
Does
ma'am.
it kind of give you a perspective? I know there was not
Yes,
a
ma'am.
question, but
It was helpful, ma'am. Yeah.
okay. Shall we go ahead?
1 second, Arundhati.
Yeah.
Chandra, I've just gone on the YouTube link. It's just showing Thai Hyderabad. Is it streaming there?
Yes, ma'am. We are streaming live.
It says live on this, so I don't know.
Yeah, it is. It's going a little slower. Naturally, it comes a little
Lag.
slow on.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is what I observed it, but that's
Yeah.
okay. That's fine.
Go ahead.
Good.
Go ahead.
All right, so we'll move on. I think it's going to get a little more interesting. Okay, now we're talking of the benefits and impacts of identifying opportunity. I'm like, this is more or less what we've been delving on and working with for a while now. So we're talking of it in terms of innovation and growth. We're talking of it in terms of giving you a competitive edge. Like we said, Amazon and Flipkart, like you rightly mentioned, hey, they're not doing it, but if there's anybody who's going to do it, they're going to be the first who's going to do it because they are already out there. They have the competitive edge. Although I think it's just a question of getting the finances together and tiding over this mountain before they're able to meet it. Then we're talking of market expansion. Obviously, matlab, even today, as we are talking about this, there are still people in tier 2 and tier 3 places in India who still looking at Amazon and Flipkart, and people majorly have gone there, which is why I think retail outlets have been hit on account of it or post-COVID. So I think we have a problem there. Adaptation to change. I think in the Indian customer segment, Indian population as such, have been the most adaptive to change. I think they have caught on to the technology. I think one advantage that we've had as a country, because we've been developing for the last couple of decades and we've not yet crossed that economy from being developing to developed. I think we've had a huge advantage in terms of being able to skip a few technological sessions there, sequences there. Therefore, we've been able to skip a few because of what developed economies have done and what yet to developed economies are doing. We've skipped a few, so we've been able to actually get on to the digital thing in a big way, enough to get everybody to say, hey, how are you doing it? Let us also do it. I think that's tremendous in terms of a population. We're very adaptive to change. Increased revenues, I think in the last, I think post liberalization, revenues have definitely increased, not just for the people who are offering products and services, but they've also increased for people who are buying it, which is why India is a market where everybody's dying to come in because of the revenues, which definitely have an upward climb. Risk mitigation, again, I think because of the fact that we have India is a very diverse market, and the market gap that people find in India, more or less, if you extrapolate it, it'll fit in somewhere or else, somewhere or the other in the world. Therefore, anything that can survive in this market and leverage on these market gaps can definitely look to expand. And risk mitigation, because of the diversity that we have as a consumer, not in any other perspective at this point of time. As a consumer, there's so many diversity, there's so many spending points, there's so many preferences, there's such a huge number, demographic divide. I think risk mitigation is inbuilt into a system if you're looking at saying, hey, I don't want to hit the losses bar. So I think risk mitigation is best tested in a market like India, where the consumer diversity is really huge and you have tremendous infinite customer segments for different products and services. Strategic decision. Yeah, please.
Ma'am, we have a question from Dr. Rama.
Yes, please.
Asking about the perspective of what is the future of ONDC as a firm when we mention about last mile delivery. So could you just throw a light upon that?
That's a really hard one. I would like to open it up for anybody else who's got specific info, because at this point of time, I don't have any specific information on it. Anyone else who can? Or Dr. Rama, can you tell us exactly what you're thinking so we can work on it?
Rama ma'am, you can unmute yourself and interact.
Yeah, let's just hear what you have to say, then we can build on it. Is she able to?
We'll answer this a little later, but let's finish up this. Probably we'll take up the call there.
All right.
Sure.
So, of course, market gap, identifying the benefits and impacts of it allow you to have strategic decision, informed decision making. Business strategies are impacted, are affected. You're able to deliver and enhance customer satisfaction. You're able to seize opportunities, meet unmet needs. And Indian market, that in that sense is very, very, dramatically different from what the developed economy markets are. Because in terms of products and services, the kind of products and services you get, your services in particular, the kind of services that Indian customer demands and expects and gets is not something that happens in developed economies. Although let's just say the intensity of what they offer and the level of what they offer is a lot higher. But as a customer, I think Indian customer segment is much better served by all services and products. Partnership and collaboration just throws up a lot. My most immediate example that I can think of is something like good old coaching institutions, partnerships and collaboration. You had Byju's by Akash, you had all sorts of partnerships and collaborations which happened during COVID, a little before COVID, till the year after COVID. So, matlab 2021 was very dynamic in terms of edu tech, and tremendous amount of partnerships and collaborations happened there. So I think that's a good case in point in terms of saying how do you leverage on market gaps. So for long-term success, I think any entrepreneur, any business has got to keep an eye on the market gaps and say what is the best way to progress and identify this and leverage on it. Anyone, anything? All right, moving ahead. Sorry. So we're talking here in terms of why do we need a market research? Now we're moving from saying market gaps. Now let's get to market research. Market research and market gaps. Gaps essentially lead you to do the market research, which gives you pretty much the same thing, but we kind of gives you in terms of numbers. So you're able to go back and say, hey, you know what? This is the size of this. This is the price point at which I can probably operate, and this is what it's probably going to allow me to make, or this is the spend I'm going to require. Therefore, you need extensive market research, because the more you're able to identify your customer, the better you know your customer, the better you're able to understand the customer needs and address it. You can, of course, you've identified the market gaps by then. You also need to do your competitive analysis, because you really can't do much unless you have a sense of what the competition is. Is there any competition or is there none? And sometimes I think as a business or as an entrepreneur, you can also be aware of the fact that you may not have competition, but there may be no need. So therefore, you don't have customers who are willing to put money down for that. And a classic example of that will be good old Swiggy and Zomato, because I think almost a decade back, if you ask people that do you really need Swiggy and Zomato delivering things, people would have said no, because we had other ways of doing it. But a decade later, Swiggy and Zomato are absolutely there in everybody's phone, in everybody's home. But at that point of time, there was no Swiggy and Zomato. Not that they had it. You also had Food Panda. You had also had a lot of other things which came in at that point of time. So not only did they manage to, outlive the competition, but they also managed to create that need. So creating that need is a lot more expensive proposition than trying to meet a need which already exists. Therefore, as a business, as a entrepreneur, one has to understand that, do I really want to create the need and then start meeting that need? Because creating the need and then meeting the need is a long haul, and it's a lot of cash burn, which is what happened with most of these movements to online. But if the need is already existing, can I meet it better? Sure, I can. So if you had Netflix, which came in first and offered the kind of things that they did for entertainment industry, everybody else who followed just kind of competed and said, hey, we can offer you this in regional language, we can offer a whole lot of other things, etc., at lower price points. But in terms of creating the need and saying, hey, this can be done, I think that's how it goes. It's a longer burn. Then you have to look at competition. So you can have competition, you may not have. You have risk mitigation. Then that's going to be the hardest part. The hardest part is going to say that, hey, markets are dynamic, so you will have a risk, but how do you mitigate it? You mitigate it only if you understand it, you measure it. If you haven't understood it, one, you haven't measured it, two, or it's not even on the horizon. Risk mitigation is a much later thing, but that's something that businesses are always very wary of. Market trends and forecasts. So market trends and forecasts at this point of time, when retail shut down and we went into COVID phase, everybody said, oh, okay, you know what, retail is over. But now gradually people are going back to retail, although it's going to take a long while before retail will be sustainable. But market trends and forecasts, you could have a lot of forecasts. People after COVID said, this is it, this is over, this is finished. Education was in a big doubt, but then edutech surfaced. Then you had finance was in a big doubt, then finance got online. Then you had work was in a huge doubt. And then work got offline and said, okay, you work from home, you come 2 days in a week. So now we've reached a stage where people are doing blended working. So like I think in 21, when people were talking of, oh my God, there's no office shut down, people didn't think of blended working. Now it's getting to be a tug of war between what's happening and what people want and what the offices want. Therefore, you optimize your business marketing strategies. Do you need a bigger office? Do you need a smaller office? Can we let go of spaces? A lot of workspaces have been let go of. A lot of newer workspaces have come. So now you have co-working, you have, shared office spaces, all of that. Resource allocation. Where do you want to spend your resource? Do you want to spend your resource in having that prime office space in a prime locality? Do you want to spend your resource in having people who can commute up and down? Do you want more people on a task? Do you want lesser people on a task? Do you want to bring in, artificial intelligence? Do you not want to bring it in? Would you rather have people? Now you have an option between deciding of all of this and saying resource allocation. For instance, finance industry, the biggest upheaval that is going to have, things like everything's going to get automated, things are going to go on blockchain. Blockchain is absolutely the, vanguard for financial industry. But resource that one has to set aside for something like blockchain is going to be huge. So who is going to get onto it? How soon are they going to get onto it? And is everybody going to get onto it at all? Or is there going to be a sharp divide on who gets onto it and who doesn't? So resource allocation is going to be the deciding factor as to who gets onto it and who doesn't. But it'll happen. It's just a question of time. Validation of ideas. That's another huge thing which I will touch upon in the next couple of minutes as to how do you validate your ideas so that it can go out into the market. It could be brand new. It could be something which is aligned with what you already offer. It could be a different service offering or product. But you must always validate your ideas before you go in, because you cannot go into the market without validating it. Then another thing in terms of support decision making. Hey, you know what? Market research allows you to play on your numbers and say, do I want to do the spend? Don't I want to do the spend? Customer retention and satisfaction. What does it take to retain your customer? What does it take to get a new customer? Customer retention is always known, substantiated by studies by saying, hey, you retain customers at greater cost, then you get newer customers. Therefore, customer retention and satisfaction, do a CSAT, always helps you to know where you want to go and in which direction. Should you change the flavor? Should you change the size? Should you change the price point? Should you change the packaging? Should you offer them something more, etc.? So on and so forth. Everyone good? Shall I move ahead? Any other? All right.
Check on the chats, Arundhati, just in case we have something on the chat.
I know they're 10, but unfortunately, I'm not able to open it up.
Yeah, even I don't see
Nandita.
anything.
Don't worry. Sri Chandra will read for us. If anything is interesting there, he'll come
Okay.
back to us. Don't worry.
Yeah, because
about
I'm
it.
not able to access because I'm doing screen share. I think I'm not able to
I
access it.
know. I understand that. Please.
Yes, ma'am. As of now, we have Miss Abhigna, who has acquainted us with the ONDC firm and its perspective on the last mile delivery.
Yeah, so shall we get her briefly in for a minute so she can
Yeah,
tell
yeah,
us what
sure.
she has to share?
Abhigna, you can unmute yourself and make us hear about what you have.
Hi, sir.
Hi, Abhigna, please.
Hi, ma'am. It's first of all great to hear you talk. It's amazing. So thank you for being here.
Hey, Abhigna, tell us what are you happy to share?
Honestly, I just answered the question. I researched it from Google, so I just wanted to keep it in the chat.
Yes,
I would
please.
just like to know more about it for myself. I have no question, so please carry on, ma'am.
Just tell us about that quick thing about ONDC because we already had somebody have a query. So
Actually, someone asked that question, so I Googled it. I need to
Okay.
learn it myself, so
All
I
right.
have zero knowledge about it. So thank you so much.
ठीक है. All right.
Yeah.
So drop it when you're good with it. But let's move on. So market research. We're saying
Yeah,
how
that's really nice, Abhigna. I think what I understand from Harish, she might have Googled it while somebody, I think Dr. Rama has asked this question. I think she got the answer. That's fine. I mean, we'll talk more about that.
all right. So
Yeah, please go ahead, Arundhati Garu, please.
All right. So we're looking at market research. We're saying you want to launch, you cannot launch without market research, more so in today's time and space, because it costs you time, it costs you effort, and most importantly, it costs you money. Therefore, given the fact that all of us are online article, you can do surveys and questionnaires. You of course have Google Forms, all of that. You can do focus groups and interviews. These are the regular things that everybody out there in the market does. Data analysis, analytical tools are huge. I think that's some place where everybody should focus and say, hey, what is it that they're telling me? Go ahead, do competitive analysis. There's a method to it. I'll give you a preview of, you know, the kind of competitive and data analysis that happens on desks. There are some peaks I will be able to give you shortly. Then, of course, market trends and forecasts. Market trends and forecasts, of course, are out there in public domain. Otherwise, it is for you to study. If you're in the market, I think it becomes mandatory that you know what's happening. Market segmentation is super, super important because people are definitely more demanding about what they want, how they want it. So as a person who's, you know, offering them a product or service, it becomes very, very important to be aware of what your market segments are saying. Trend analysis and industry reports are, again, huge. They can be bought, they can be accessed in public domain, they can be got through SMEs, but you will have to find your way through and get that. User testing and prototyping, that's the exciting part, because after you've done all of the above, this is where you go out to the market and say, hey, you know what, you're my potential user, I'm offering you this is what you've told me, does it work for you, are you willing to pay me this price point? That's when the actual you know, test happens. That's when the water is tested, and you have people who respond, you have people who are willing to pay, or you probably have to come back to your drawing board and redo this. Then you have workshops and ideation sessions where you gather a lot of these opinions, where you have a lot of things, which is what we are also doing at this point of time, and saying, hey, you know what, does this work, doesn't it work? Social listening, one of the biggest you know, game changers in today's time and age. If you are on the social network, you are a business, you have your paid, earned, you know, owned social media, that's the place you need to be very, you know, wary of, because you need to do it right, you need to sound it right, you need to hear the market echo what you want to say. Therefore, you got to be good with what you do, you got to service them well, then you earn a good you know, review, you earn a good media, and then it takes you forward. Social listening is really important, and people can't afford to neglect it, not in today's time and age. Anyone, anything? Can I move on? I have another 20 minutes or so, 15-20 minutes.
Ma'am, you have 7 more minutes.
Oh, great. Superb. All right. So what I'll do is I will quickly take you. Why am I frozen? Can you help me? Chandra? I'm like positively frozen. I don't know why. So I'm going to quickly give you an overview of. Okay, yeah, great.
Yes, ma'am. We are able to see your case study slide.
Okay, so I wanted to move ahead, but yeah, so let me take you through the case studies. Good old Apple, market gap. They said before Apple, you had mobile phones which are like bricks. I don't know how many of you are aware of good old Nokia, which was famous Nokia brick. Nokia then, not Nokia now. And interfaces were very, very cumbersome. You really didn't have it. So iPhone came with the touch thing. Said, okay, let's revolutionize. And iPhone from then to iPhone now, you know how sought after it is. Netflix you know, identified the market gap of video rental, late fees, all of that, and not getting enough. Therefore, they said, let's go online. They had an entire streaming service. And Netflix from then till now, I think, is still struggling to make money, and all the more so make money in India. But then I think that's the way it is. Now they went ahead and they offer the library of movies, no late fees. They said, get online, watch for free. Freemium model came into place. So they watched and then people paid. Then, of course, now you have lots of options, lots of competition to Netflix. And now everybody in India can watch whatever they want in whichever language they want. I think that's a tremendous leap in, you know, entertainment. Tesla. And this allows us to, of course, see everything which is beyond India and more. Tesla. Electric cars, super boring. They were very, very unglamorous. They were extremely undesirable. So really, even though people were working on electric cars for a while now, it's only become hot and happening now, but they've been talking of it for a while, almost a decade or more. Tesla said, okay, let's make it glamorous. The minute Tesla made it glamorous, the whole world said, oh, okay, let's look at electric cars. And it seems to make a lot of, you know, environment sense. Therefore, people went into electric cars. Airbnb. Airbnb, of course, gave travelers a better option than living in a sterile hotel at a humongous cost and not being able to experience what they wanted to experience in newer geographies. Therefore, they said, hey, Airbnb said, come live with us and experience what you want. So therefore, these are the kind of things where, you know, you see people, companies have market gaps. And if you know, all of these companies have had a long haul to being actually being profitable or finding their customer markets, customer segments, which have paid them the cost that they want. So that's roughly how the game goes. Chandra, am I done?
Yes, ma'am, you have 3 more minutes. Maybe we can open it for the question.
Yeah, let's do
Open to question answers. Anybody if you wanted to ask me.
Ma'am, we have 2 questions in the chat box as of now.
that. Okay.
The one is again from Mr. Dr. Rama, saying that
Okay.
she mentioned Open Network for Digital Commerce, the abbreviation for ONDC. Maybe
Yeah,
we
yeah.
understood it.
Yeah.
Also, from Mr. Kartikeya, he is
Huh.
asking, what is your take on usage of digital space for market research comparison with other sources?
Oh, I am a firm believer of online this thing in today's time and age, and this is something that I have done. So I think it makes tremendous sense, because if you get a sense of what's happening about companies on the digital space, you get a good sense of what's happening behind it, provided you have the ability to be able to read and perceive and deconstruct the data and statistics effectively. So if you want, I'm happy to share one quick overview. Should I do that? Just like half a minute or so?
Sure, ma'am.
Yeah, please go ahead.
So to kind of show you what it looks like for me, can you see?
Yeah.
Yeah?
We are able to see.
Yeah. So this is what it looks like. So we've done this for people. See, so something like website workings, okay, never mind who it is and all that. But I'm like, even at a very far distance, if you're able to decode the website workings, the social media numbers, and say, hey, you know what? What are the likes? What are the followings? What's happening? What is the traction that's happening? And what is it that your website does? What is it that it's doing in terms of citation flows, the trust flows, the page authority, and all? I think it tells you humongous volumes about what you need to know. And trust me, the only other thing that you need to do, I mean, let's just stay here. Trust me, the only other thing that you need to do is do this at the far end, and this you can do without actually getting into the system. So given the nature of work that I do this without getting into people's system to begin with. And I say, if I'm convinced and say, hey, there is something here that merits a deeper dive, it makes sense to do a deeper dive. So I completely, subscribe to that point of view. And I think it cuts out a lot of time and effort. Does it answer your question?
Who asked the question?
Mr. Kartikeya. Yeah.
Mr. Kartikeyan, do you want to kind of?
Yeah, yes,
Yes, ma'am.
he has given
Yes,
a-
thank you. Yeah.
All right. Now I can see it better. I can see the chats now. Anyone else, anything?
I'm seeing none on the floor as of now.
All right.
We also finish with your time slot as well.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
I
thank
hope
you,
you
ma'am.
guys had some interesting information, but I wish I could hear all of you next time,
Yes.
nevertheless.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Great.
Arundhati. Thank you so much for coming online and taking a session. I know it's important, the time, but you have spent it with us. And thank you. I'm sure all of them have benefited from this. And this will be added on with Praveen next with a case study of also his startup using the same theme and topic.
All right. Thanks so much,
Praveen.
Nandita.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much, madam. I think this is a great session to all of us. I'm sure we will take Dr. Nandita's help and your help. If anybody students wants to come to any of the institute there, we would like to invite you
absolutely.
there.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you so
Banu
much.
Reddy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for taking us to the
So from
informative
here,
PPT.
I will
Absolutely. Thank you.
request Chandra to introduce our next speaker, who's also a startup person, and he will, with his own experience, both in the startup leadership program as well as his own startup, he is going to tell us something about the theme that we are talking today. Over to you, Chandra.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Our next speaker, as we move further, is Mr. Praveen Potipati, who is currently the program lead at Startup Leadership Program. Startup Leadership Program is headquartered at Boston, which provides world-class training to the founders and CEOs of all the business world, which has 26 chapters spread across 12 countries. Mr. Praveen has over 20 years of experience in problem solving, solutions development, and establishing new businesses. He also holds a postgraduate degree from University of Essex, United Kingdom. Over to you, Mr. Praveen. Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for joining, Praveen.
Hey, thank you
Thank you
for
so much, Mr. Praveen, for joining us. It was a great show. Want to hear from you.
thank you so much for inviting me to the discussion. And I was there when Ms. Arundhati Rao have explained a lot of stuff. A lot of things really make sense about what she was explaining. So let me share my screen, and I will really quickly go through what I done so far and what has been my passion, and how was I driving my business, and how it was helpful for me and also for the community. Okay.
So, Praveen, just remember these students are all just coming back to understand what is this entrepreneurship is all about. So maybe more of your experiences on a practical way would make them more interactive session, actually.
Definitely.
Thank you. Thank you. Please go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, I love to make it interactive as much as possible. Since we are online, we'll see what the maximum possible stuff,
Thank you.
right? So,
Yeah.
so I'm sure most of the students out here wanted to take the entrepreneurial journey. So before doing that, it's very important to understand who is an entrepreneur, right? So there are a lot of definitions out there, but one of the few things that really stuck my mind or stays with me, for a very long time is, can you see my screen? I'm sharing a slideshow.
Yes, sir, we can. Please proceed.
All right, thank you so much. So who is an entrepreneur, right? So if you Google it, I'm sure there's a lot of definitions that come through, which will tell about an entrepreneur is so and so, so and so, so and so. And in one word, if you summarize it, right? So entrepreneur is nothing but a guy who is a visionary. So he or she, really wanted to, do something, have seen certain things, which they wanted to build certain things. Building does not always mean a technology. It can be non-technical solution also. But somebody who has seen beyond everybody what have seen, name an entrepreneur, name a successful entrepreneur that you know so far. So for examples that, Ms. Arundhati has shared, Apple, Airbnb, Netflix, all those guys have seen beyond what a normal person could have seen, and they have really followed their vision and made sure they deliver it, right? So today we are seeing successful product out there. Any of them that we are seeing didn't never happen overnight. It took them more than 10-15 years to make it the way we are seeing now, right? So for me, entrepreneur is something who is visionary, who thinks, firmly believes that whatever he or she is trying to make it is going to bring a positive change to the system that they're working on, right? This is my belief, and I'm sure, over a period of time, everybody gets aligned to it, because end of the day, the solution or the problems that entrepreneur is going to solve is going to make the system improve from what they have found, right? So another very interesting statement that I heard from my mentor of, who is an entrepreneur, right? So an entrepreneur is someone who jumps from a cliff, and they will build a solution by the time they come down. So what will happen technically is, it is not like they build a solution by the time they come down. It is the solution they build by the time they fell down, because the force with which they're coming down after jumping a cliff is so fast, right? Within that time, so they need to validate the idea which they wanted to build. We need to understand what is the market size. They need to understand whether it's serviceable or not. Need to understand who is the market, how to place it, what is the price point, do the sales and marketing, sell it and make money, build a team in parallel, and then finally you will land up in a very decent shape of a product or a solution or service which is serviceable in the market, right? So all these various things has to happen in such a short period of time. If any of these proportions does not go well, technically mean that they are going to die. So it's another very, very heart-touching statement that I got from one of my mentors. It really hits my mind every time I'm not focusing. So this is a very good one for me to, always keep on running. How should an entrepreneur be, right? So coming back to what I have done, right? So before that, so in a market, how do we really identify what to be done? So in today's market, so most of us think that everything is invented, everything is done there, done dusted out there, and there's not much to find out and build new things. So I would say the kind of opportunity that we need to look comes from two different ways of looking at, right? One is to identify the need in the market, or gap in the market, or pain point in the market, right? So for example Apple, right? So when Apple was launched, there was a BlackBerry phone which was highly secured. It was #1 in the world till then. And when Apple has launched, right, it took away complete BlackBerry markets in the next 5 years. And BlackBerry company has shut down. From a pure phone company, it became a hardware company. So Apple did not find something new, right? Apple improvised, right? What did improvise, right? So they took a phone in hand, how to dial, right? So it's all about how to dial a phone, right? You have numbers, you have a small keypad, which is not so colorful, and you don't really experience what you're doing, right? And it does not have a great support from the ecosystem, right? And users were only using it for maybe calling, SMS, checking mails, max. This is the only 3 functions I would remember what a BlackBerry phone was made for, right? Then Steve Jobs have seen this opportunity, see that, hey, why should we only use the phone for only these 3 things? Why can't experience of the user be much more interactive? Why can't the user's experience can be much more enhancing, joy, all of this. So iPhone is not for technology. iPhone is for joy, experience, and bringing all the ecosystem in place, right? When Apple iPhone was built, right, he just not built a phone. He has built, apart from the phone, he has also developed the App Store, where various people can contribute to it. So technically, Apple only developed a phone, but it has opened opportunities for entire world to contribute, so that the phone or Apple ecosystem grows much bigger, right? So he has seen a vision, right? So that's what a visionary means. He has seen a vision. Why should I only do this one, right? There is a need, there's a gap that is identified, and a pain point from the user perspective, right? So people who are within the system, right, would actually try to do that, right? And the second way of doing it, this is one of the famous this is most of how the business is built, right? You build a better one or replicate the existing one with a better experience, right? For example, in India, if you take India as an example, right? So Uber, Ola, these are 2 same companies doing the exact same service. There's no big difference. But since the Indian market is so big, right, it works, right? And if you take Zomato, Swiggy, they do exactly the same thing. There is no big difference between. But there is, when initially, now there is no much difference. When these 2 apps or these services initially launched, there was a technology war between these 2 companies. Who is going to provide a faster service, reliable service, and a better customer service, right? These are 3 things which these 2 giants were fighting, and now more or less, they got on an equal note, right? So 2 ways I believe I have seen the way we identify any opportunity in the market is, if there is a need in the market, technically identify that. If there is a gap in the system, break it. And then if there's any pain point, people are really struggling with doing things, right? So you do that, or take existing product, make it so big. That's what Tesla has built an electric car. It's not like there was no electric car before. There were electric cars, right? When Tesla built a car, it made it so big, so much better that they forgot every electric that was ever in the market. So that's what Elon Musk did, right? So he has absolutely made sure the product is picture perfect, has no issues, gives proper response for them. So response was not for the users, response for him to go back and improve the next model, right? That's what he was actually doing. And he built it so nicely with 0 marketing cost and sales cost. It became so good in the market, and people ever forgot, because before Tesla came, there was electric car from Mercedes, there was electric car from BMW, people were there, but it was not so popular. After Tesla came in, the way he produced it, he built it so better, people actually forgot the cars which were made before the Tesla, right? So there are 2 various ways that you can actually go and identify the market and see what is the, one of the ways to get the market. So currently, so coming to how do you actually understand the market, right? Because market is so big. Market I worked on, I'll personally take my experience in terms of working in 3 different markets. So I worked totally in 3 different domains, very diversified. They are not related to each other in any sense, but underlying ground principle was same, right? So I worked in education domain, and I worked in industrial domain. We did a lot of work for industries. And third, I worked in logistics domain. We worked in line haul business and also last mile business for some of the very big companies in India, right? So I'll take each one as example and try to explain what is that we have done over here in terms of how did we identify the opportunities, how did we do the research, number 2, and the market size, and how did we evolve and build a solution for such a pain point, right? So the way we approached the market in terms of education was, the example, I'll first start with education, the way we did. So back in 2010, it was too early when we launched an ERP for education. So this education platform that we developed was majorly for institutions which has more than 1 college or 1 branches, right? So it was majorly targeted for those educational institutions who had more than 1 branch in any city, any point of time. And how do they manage it? And how do they make sure every college is working in a similar fashion? And how do you gather data, right? So, and then derive information out of it, make sense out of it, and, intelligence out of it, and take some smart decisions so that, you improve yourself. So underline all these 3 different things, the underlying thing was data, right? So the data is the most important part in the entire 3 domains that we worked with. In the education system, as I was saying, we took an example of, or we went, right? So since we had only 2 ways of identifying opportunity, like, you understand the pain point or you build something better. So we took the first approach. So we spoke to, first approach. So we spoke to colleges back in 2010, colleges who had multiple branches. At that time we spoke to Narayana College, Rouse College, and there are a group of institutions that we have spoken to. And we did speak to a lot of them to understand what do they do now, because idea just popped up, right? So idea validation is very important. How do you actually validate an idea? So if you actually wanted to validate an idea, either you have to be deep down boiling with the problem, now the solution comes out, or you need to talk to so many people in the industry to understand whether the idea that you have is really valid or it is just an idea, right? So what we did was, we had this idea saying that how do colleges really actually manage, right? So because back then, I believe all these institutions have, around 50 to 60 branches roughly, in the combined AP back then. And in every college, they used to at least have, around 500 students, including schools, colleges, and all. And we are always having, because when we were studying, we were seeing these situations, right? In one institution, in one branch, go set of things of, and second branch, they also do the same thing, third branch. It's a kind of replication model they did. But how do the central office actually manage? Because there are multiple, let's say there are 10 different branches, and there is one central office sitting and managing all those 10 branches. But how do they manage was a question, right? So then we went and spoke to the central office team and said that, hey, we are working an idea, so can you give us input, right? So it was a denial back then, because people were not willing to share information. It took some amount of time for us to really go and understand, tell them, say that we are so and so, we are grads of engineering, and we wanted to do this. And it took a lot of time for us to really go back and gather or validate the idea itself, right? It was not so easy because people were not so open back then to share how they do it and what they do it, right? So after gathering a lot of information from them, we got a lot of issues technically, right? Both in terms of how do you attract students to join the college, And how do you make sure the fees are rightly paid? How do you make sure there is no leakage in any of these things? How do you run the whole institution right from the, creating a timetable to scheduling the lecturers versus classes to how do you conduct exams? How do you, correct the papers? And how do you give the marks, positive feedback so the students can improve? And how do you maintain your hostels, food of it, transport? And then, and one of the major problems that they had was how do you place students after you complete engineering, right? So there are so many problems that they gave, but a lot of them was noise, right? It's really important, to understand everything, but it's really also important to understand what exactly we wanted to solve. So after gathering a lot of information, it made a lot of sense that one thing was very sure that these institutions had problems, but it does not mean that we are going to have everything, right? So we will start somewhere, we'll grow, and then we'll kind of take it next steps. That was the first thing that we did. So what we did was, yes, we understood a lot of problems, and it took more than a week for us to come back to our office and see what to be done. And after 1 week of brainstorming, discussions, because if there are people to debate and discuss, always good to have people to debate and discuss. So one agree, one does not agree. It's always there. It's a good discussion to have, because that is where the crux of the product will come out. If at all we are trying to build a platform, right? So the crux of the platform will only come out when there is a thorough debate at the idea stage itself, not beyond. If after idea stage product is built, if at that point if we're discussing the product statement, then the whole whatever is built is scrapped. We just have to scrap it because it's not a market fit at all, right? So at the idea stage, we fought a lot, we discussed a lot. There were a lot of frustrating situations, which was good, because if I turn back and see, I think we had a very good discussions back then to understand what to do, what not to do, right? So then we listed a lot of stuff. With that approach, we went back to the college and spoke with them. Hey, this is what we understood, and this is something that So because we have to, if you prioritize it, right? Priority 1, priority 2, priority 3. To address priority 1 problem was not so easy, because there are so many dependencies. How to collect information, how to collect data, because there was no system back then, right? Back in 2009, I'm sure none of them had any systems. Majorly, they are doing a lot of work on the using paper, pen, Excel. Excel was luxury back then. Many people even does not know what is Excel. There are a lot of people using handbooks and all, right? So it was a paradigm shift from what they did to what they are doing now, right? So there's a lot of underlying problems to solve the priority 1 problem itself, because as I said, there was no system available to do anything. So to address priority 1 problem, even one problem to solve, we need to do at least 240 steps below to make sure that priority 1 is solved, right? So we have to really narrow down a lot of other steps to make sure, to do that. So once we understood the priority 1 problem, so first problem that we started to understand was, how do I make sure, how do I have visibility, right? How many inquiries came into the college or school or engineering college or inter college? How many inquiries came? How many of them got converted into a student? Why is the gap? And how many got paid? There's still a gap. And how many, how many have actually joined in which branches? Fee paid, how many installments paid? So the first problem statement we attacked was total market, total available market for them, right? So for example, I come from a place called Kadapa in Andhra Pradesh back then. So let's say the total number of students available for that year for 1,000, right? That is my total market where this college is going to go on target. Okay, so among these 1,000 people, right, who are going to join a college, let's take an example of 10+2, right, or intermediate, for example. So among these 1,000, there are 1,000 students who are coming out of school and who is ready to join into the inter colleges, right? So in that 1,000 students, how many of them can I convert, or how many of them are really available within the my town itself to join the college? Maybe 800, 200 people might want to go to other cities study. All is possible, right? So in that 800, how many of them I can focus on, because you are not the only college available in the city. There are so many colleges, right? But for me, my target is how many seats I have, right? So let's say I can intake up to 100 students per section, or maybe 50 students per section, and I have five sections. So I can accommodate 250 students, in my college. That is the capacity that we have, right? So the target is always 500, because 50% is always a loss, because a student, if they have multiple opportunities to really get into college, it's very important to make sure the position rightly, so that the conversion is much faster, right? So from 800 students to make sure 250 students join me, I have to make sure I need to talk to more than 500 students, or I need to all the 800 students, to make sure they know about me as a college, number one, and what courses I offer, MPC, BPC, MEC, what else is like, right? And what happens after that, right? So how is my college much better than somebody else, is something which is very important, right? So that was, then that conversion happens into, student get convinced, or parents get convinced. Back then, parents used to get convinced, if my student is going into this college, let him go, I'll make a call, right? So students didn't have much of a choice, more of a parentation back then. So parent made a choice, and then finally they paid a fee. Until they paid a fee was the first interaction with the parent. It's a lot of back and forth happen with the colleges, and then finally few people will turn, people might not turn. So there are few years, I believe, initial days, those 250 seats never filled, right? It took, maybe they started with 50, 100, 150, 250, right? Gradually they're going 350. And after that, maybe people from outside also came and joined into these colleges. So gradually they moved in the direction. Right? So now in this scenario, this is the first problem statement that we really wanted to attack and see how to make it happen. Now, if you in these major 4 or 5 steps that we just discussed, if you see currently, there's no way, there was no system for them available to collect the data, right? If you say how many inquiries or how many calls we made, or because back then there was only landlines available, there was no mobile phones in 2010. Right, there were no mobile phones. I think in India, at least, it was very, very rare to see mobile phones. So people used to go home to home, knock the door, give the pamphlet, take a number, and then come back, make calls. So many processes, right? So first of all, we understood that we have to build a system not for admissions, but how to collect data before admissions, right? So that was the first, problem statement we started to do, right? So once we did that, it was not easy to do that, because people were so happy to write on papers, right? The first idea to give them was, let's not even build a system, use Excel first, and see how we are going to do that, right? So because back then nobody has the Excel, for our entire college there was only one computer, right? So computer was also a luxury, kind of back then, at least in the colleges, right? I mean, there are IT offices in India and all. Computers were very, very luxury back then in colleges. And it took a lot of time for them to allocate budget for that, right? First of all, and then buy computers, and then train people to do Excel. You see the amount of activities, right? It is not the solution that offers important. It is the system which is ready or not is more important for us to make sure, we are solving a problem, right? So training people on Excel, and then making sure they make right data entries, it took a good amount of time for us to really get to a stage where people can start collecting information in Excel, right? So once we start collecting data Excel, we used to, internet also was very new for them in the colleges, right? So, and then, we used to have these dial modems, people used to dial and then, do that back then. So later, broadband, fiber was introduced, or LAN was introduced and all. So still, infra was not ready for this college. It was not ready. Infra did not penetrate into colleges, right? So that was the problem statement. So there, if you see, there are a lot of hurdles, right? It's not always entrepreneur being ready. It's also the system being ready for you to do it. So back then we always felt that we were too early in the market. So for that solution, but finally it took good amount of years for us to build that, and finally this college realized the value that we're doing. So one by one we started solving their problems, and then we did, right? So if you see how do we whatever I said is summarized into 3 different parts. So what is the pain point that we really understood, right? So which is very, very important, right? So and then what is the market size? What is the market size? It is equal to market readiness and easy to adopt by them. And what is the solution that you're trying to offer? The solution is not always a technology solution, not always a solution or a service or a product that we're trying to offer, right? So solution could be always something else. So if you think of a solution or if you think of a company called Swiggy or Zomato. So Swiggy or Zomato is not a food booking app, right? That is not there. Food booking or food booking app, right? That is not. Swiggy was never built for food booking app, right? Or Zomato, for the matter of fact. They evolved to be there, right? Before Swiggy and Zomato are logistic companies, right? So they deliver place A to place B. Just that food became much more popular and became more famous. But other than that, Swiggy and Zomato were more of delivery companies when they started. And then food, then they became more of an aggregator afterwards. And then food became one of the focal point for them, right? Now, if you see now now they also started doing small courier deliveries within city. So they've evolved, pivoted based on the need of the market and how they have to do that, right? So not sometimes it is very unclear at the initial stages what would be end goal. But as I always said, entrepreneur is a visionary who believes that I'm going to improve the system that I'm going to get in, and I'm going to make sure that I'm going to deliver value to the system, right? So being a visionary is very important when you're trying to deal with systems that are not so greatly adaptive, because it takes a lot of time, pain, effort, and to make it happen, right? So these another classic example that I always think of a mind, and apart from what we did, right? So back in Bangalore, right? So it also applicable in any city, but Bangalore is always famous for the traffic, right? And back in same 2010 when we were doing the education system, one of my friend was they travel in Bangalore. Most of them back then they used to travel in buses, right? So they never knew when the bus is going to come, maybe 112A, 112B, right? And if it comes, will it come on time? If it comes on time or late also, do I have a place to get into the bus? Because back then the public facility was not that sophisticated compared to do now, right? So these were some of the problems that these guys are facing, right? So then what they did was they thought, let me see how to solve it, right? So what these guys did, right, as a MVP. So MVP always does not mean that there's a platform technology you developed for it. No, the MVP for these guys that they developed, right? So there are 4 guys, 4 of my friends, stood in 4 different bus stops, right? And all 4 are connected over a con call. So all were connected in one single call and try to understand. So in the first stop number 1, right? So one of the guys say that one of the guys sees that 112A arrived and just left, right? The guy in the second bus stop used to take a placard and say, upcoming bus is 112A. So now, before, people never understood what these guys are doing. People were really thinking these guys are very funny, right, what they're doing, right? Then slowly started realizing, okay, if he says certain bus number is coming, means that a bus is going to arrive in next 5 minutes, right? The same message used to pass on to subsequent 3rd and 4th stop. So 4 guys, 4 different stops, each holding placards saying that what bus is coming, right? Now people started asking, when is my 112? So now people know that, okay, 112A is coming. First problem solved. Now people know the bus is coming. Second question, will it come on time, right? Now 5-10 minutes plus or minus, it was solved, because these guys used to now start timer also, right? They used to have a timer and say approximate time to reach second bus stop 7 minutes. Now you say 112 is coming in 7 minutes, right? Second problem. The third thing is, will I have a seat to get in or not, right? So now first guy is to call, yes, there is a seat for 2 people, right? So now this guy is to say 112A is coming in 7 minutes and has a place for 2 people, right? So now the subsequent information was going to pass from, from second gate to third gate to fourth gate. Now people started without even thinking much, right? When these guys were actually standing in a bus stop, right? So these guys, used to write, and people were actually looking forward for them to put a placard and say, what is the next bus coming, whether they have seats or not, right? So now this is MVP, right? So there is no technology involved. The cost of MVP is 4 or 5 different placards, right? And phone calls, right? Back then, right? So you see, MVP is proven because people want solution, right? Then they built an app for it, because once the MVP is proven, app is built and went in the market, right? So understanding pain point and solving it has multiple steps. So we approached something else. My friend approached something else. Swiggy approached something different. Netflix approached something else. So everybody, the way they approach to a solution would be slightly different. The order would be the same or would be messy end of the day. But idea is to, how do we move from step 1 to step 2 or 3 and 4, right? So that is what the always step is, right? So that's what my first experience about education. Second, I told one of my friend. So if there are any questions, please stop me and then ask me. Yeah, anything, right? Okay, second thing, industrial IoT, right? So why did we pick up that domain? So as I said, all these things revolves around data, right? So what we do was, we used to work with some of the large industries, right, in the world. It was very, these guys using very expensive systems to monitor the machines, right? What do they do, right? Industry is very critical, for the economy. So if the industry shutdowns, or if the machine goes for a problem for next 5 days, the whole supply chain gets stopped. The whole market gets stopped because of that, because there's a huge customers waiting for the product to come out. There's huge people who's going to input the raw materials to it. There is so many people dependent on the product to come out to cross sell, do sell about it, right? So many, the whole market stops, right? So what people used to do is, it's very interesting to understand how do you read the data and then, and understand when the machine is going to fail. So these people are using, or many industries are using very, very large, expensive tools to do that. But when we realize that, this is not so expensive, cannot be expensive, need not be expensive, right? So then we went back to our drawing board and listed down all the various tools that people use and why they use it, right? What are the various features that each tool will provide, what is that they don't provide, whether this solves the problem or not. Then we realized the problem was very clear, because we don't want to build something new, we want to improvise the problem. We don't improvise solution, right? So that was the idea for us, right? So and then back then, it was this all happened in 2019 in the Corona period, right? So because till before Corona period, we used to work for industries, large expensive tools. It does not make sense for us. Then we came out and then started brainstorming. I said, why should somebody spend so much of millions of dollars just for monitoring something, right? Need not be expensive. We came back and we improvised the idea of it, and we built a lot of solutions using open source technologies, right? So we used Python, we used Java source, we used a lot of libraries available from the machines in the market. And whatever was costing $1 million before, back then, right, in 2019, it was not even costing $50,000 after we built solutions, right? This became a huge difference for industries, right? And then the value add was more compared to what
Sir,
was.
Sir,
Yeah.
gentle reminder, you have 4 more minutes left. Could you also proceed further with your PPT, sir? We are only able to see the market slide as of now.
Yeah, so I'm talking about various industries. With the PPT is all about 4 or 5 slides.
Okay.
It's all about what I'm going to present.
Okay, sure.
So the learnings is more important than PPT.
Okay, sure.
Right,
Thank you.
right. Yeah, I'll quickly move to the latest one, which is logistics that we did. So that was, we improvised on what's offering the market, right? We improvise the way the data gets captured. We improvise the way data can be utilized. They improvise the way the data can add value system, right? So that became a huge difference, right? And the multi-million-dollar softwares, right, started falling apart, and our solution, was getting, more preference and all, right? And then we sold the company to somebody else and we made an exit. Right? So now we improvise, rather than finding something new. We knew what is the problem, we improvised and sold it, right? So that was it. And coming to the last one, logistics was my, is very, very close to my heart, because for a very long time, I was observing India, right? How do we move goods from A to B, because I was into industries and trying to understand what happens supply chain stops, right? So that's where I found a very, very interesting problem in logistics, both in line haul, which is line haul, from cities to cities and last mile within the city. How do these guys operate, right? So, and honestly, when we thought, the system is very, very old and it has to be much matured compared to what we thought, and there should be so many systems for them to do what they do, right? But surprisingly, when we spoke to a lot of people, especially logistics field, when we wanted to build something, so I'm sorry, initial impression was very different, but when we actually went and spoke to almost 600 people in the industry, really surprising. We did, because we want to understand what they do, how they do it. When we spoke, they had no systems, no platform to do, no technology usage, no efficiency, no transparency. There's a lot of no's when we actually spoke. And very surprising for us to do that. But how? Because such a robust system in India. Because if logistics stops, India stops, right? India moves on wheels, right? Such a large system has no technology platform to do it, right? So. And this also happened during the pre-COVID. Logistics happened. We started discussions because it took a lot of time for us to talk to 600 people back in South India, few North India, understand. And we understood the problem statement, what these guys are facing. And then we clearly understood that there was no practical systems for them to do. It made a lot of sense for first ask them to do Excel, because we did not want to build platform on day one and then run with sales and marketing, because that's a very big thing for us to do, right? So we first gave them a couple of Excel sheets to go back and fill and get them used to habit of capturing data, because if there is system, if you don't have a habit of capturing data, there is no point having system, right? So the first step for us to give them templates to capture the data is at a format, right? Each of them had more or less same format of information, but yeah, based on business that they do, slight information was up and down. So it took good amount of time for us to educate them how to use Excel. Now people were embracing, because information is really available for them, right? Now they're using Excel. We generated reports also for them in pure Excel. Very good thing. Now the owner of the companies, right, started seeing where the gaps was there, where the loss was there, where the amount was spending, where they spent more money than required, right? Which is very good, because they never had this clear picture. They had some picture. Having a clear picture is very different to have some picture, right? That was the change that we did. Now, once that was done, then it made sense for us to go back and build MVP, release the product to it, and then we developed a product and in the logistics field, which got connected very instantly with the transporters in India, right? And most of them, unfortunately, lost their business between two COVIDs. Some became, from large player to small player, and small players actually exited out of the market. So, but whoever were using the product, they had a very great difference in terms of what they're doing, and right, and this gave a real picture of their business. So for business owners, it's very, very important to understand, because end of the day, these are family business. So these are not corporates, right? Corporates are very, very few corporates in India in terms of logistics, like maybe Gati, DDDC and all, but mostly are family-owned businesses, right? So for a family-owned business, every tracking of every rupee is very important. And visibility, they might take action or not, that is a different thing, but giving visibility is something which is very, very needful for these guys, because if they don't try to know what is happening, and there are leakages in the system, it is always very, very difficult for them to do. So once we offered a solution, it made impact. Again, we sold this company. We exited this company again back in very recently. Just this month, I believe, this month I exited. We sold our business. We made a very good impact, and the larger player who came and bought us out. Very happy. So all these companies, we made successful exits. And as I was saying, we had a gut feeling. We had a vision. Okay, we might solve this problem. So we took education. In education, we did not take an approach back then, because we were like going back and multiple things. But in my second startup and startup, we took a approach, formalized step-by-step approach to understand how to actually target the market, understand the market, understand pain point, how to do it, whom to talk to, whom not to talk to, and clear the noise from what we really wanted to do, which is important, and then how to really go back and build a solution to them. that is something that we actually did and really worked for us. And I believe, all the, other steps that we did, as you're saying, when we as this idea, right, we take these are very important things that we always consider, like what is a pain point that we're trying to solve, what is the market size, and market size, I mean, is there really market for the solution that we are trying to offer? We could be too early, or we could be too late. If you're too late, good, because there's so many players that is market is proven, there's a gap, you can still have go and do it, right? If you're too early, there's a long struggle for many companies to do that, which is that it is. And what kind of solution you offer, right? Not, as I said, solutions not always needs to be technology. One solution is plug cards, second solution was Excel sheets, third solution was putting process in place for them to collect data and all. Then technology comes into picture. So for us, in our experience, technology was not, or building a platform for any of the problem that we identified was not the always, or was never the first step of solving a problem, right?
Sir,
So
we have 2 more minutes left. Can we go for questions? If
yeah. So yeah,
I
in
request you
summary,
to wrap it up quickly.
yeah. So in summary, that is what we did, guys. Right. And if there are any questions, I'm happy to take it forward. I'm sorry we have to cut short of time, but I believe I convey the message how we did it.
Thank you for the session, sir. Students, if you have any questions, please feel free to unmute yourself or put a question in the chat box. I'll be happy to read them out. Any questions, Mr. Rajesh, Mr. Mahesh, Deepak?
Is anything there, Sri Chandra? You can read it out.
As of now, seen none, sir.
Okay, that's fine.
Request all the students to switch on their video cameras on, so that we'll take a group picture marking the second session.
Yeah, please switch on your cameras, everybody. Yeah.
My camera seems to be
The students, you can switch on. It's okay. This is the important part of entrepreneurship, is also kind of networking, chatting, peer learning. Yeah. So should I read out the names now? Sai Vinay, and the others are all roll numbers. So, Rajesh, Deepak, Srividya, madam. Please switch on your videos as much. Yeah. Just for a second, we will have a photo op. Yeah, thank you. Please switch on the photos.
Yeah, don't.
Yeah, thank you. Balaji, sir, how are you? You can switch on, Balaji, sir. Yeah.
Good evening.
Yeah. 081. These numbers are difficult.
Yeah, Balaji Garu, how are you, sir?
Guys, all of you, please switch on Venkat Rao. Srivinay, Sai Vinay.
Don't worry, you all look handsome and beautiful.
Yeah.
Today, my makeup man has not come, so else I would have been more beautiful, actually, handsome.
So that's the fun.
No, you look awesome any day. Don't worry.
Sai Vinay, can we have your video on? Yours is
Mr. Rajesh.
Praveen, you can also have your video on. You don't need to switch off.
Oh, no, I am trying. The camera is auto switching off.
Abhigna would request you to turn on your camera. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fine. Go ahead. Whatever pictures you can capture. Chandra, please go ahead.
Yeah. Please switch on Venkatramana, Rajesh. Please switch on your cameras. Whoever can switch on, please, as early as fast as possible.
I think we have enough now. Yeah. Thank you for joining, guys. If you have any questions, we'll take it forward. Yeah.
This students, just listen to this. This is just only to browse your, whatever you have listened when we came and spoke to you in your institute. This is how these classes will come. And any question from your side, you can always come back to Sri Chandra. We will come back to you with the relevant answers, and we can redo the exercise when you come back to your institute, actually. Go, Chandra. You can click it off.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I've clicked it. Thank you for joining, guys. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you,
Praveen,
so
for the nice session. Thank you, Praveen.
Thank you for that.
Thank you, Ms. Arundhati.
Thank you,
Mr. Praveen.
Mr. Praveen and Madam. Thank you so much, Arundhati Garu.
Good
Yeah.
night, everybody. Nice
Yeah,
meeting
good
you.
night. Good night. We'll catch you up.
Thank
We'll
you.
catch
Good
up with all of you. Meantime, keep in touch. And any queries, please send it to Sai Chandra. Sri
Also,
Chandra.
ma'am, also Arundhati ma'am and Praveen sir, a few of the students have requested the PPT. Could you please share it with us? We can take it forward for the students. It will be really helpful.
Yeah, but not right away. We'll have to edit some bits and then send
Sure,
it
sure,
across to you.
sure.
Send it
We'll do
across.
it, ma'am. Yeah.
Sure,
Thank
we'll
you.
share.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Banu sir.
Have a
Thank you,
great
Balaji
Thank
sir.
you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Nandita ma'am.
Thank you. We'll meet you next week
Yeah,
again on
thank you.
Saturday. Bye bye. Have a
Bye.
great
Bye.
weekend.
Yeah, thank you.